Good morning, church. How's everybody feeling? Okay, good. I'm Brad Thompson. I want to say hi. You may know that the Reverend Tom McDermott is in Germany. I think he's actually in Czech Republic right now. But anyway, visiting his son Tim and their family. So in the meantime, we're going to rock out, and Deandra is going to be preaching for us instead of Tom, so you're in for a treat. And here it goes. We're going to start off with a song. Welcome the sun, the clouds at the fame, the wind that sweeps the sky clean and lets the sun shine again. This is the most magnificent life has ever been. Here is heaven and earth and the brilliant sky in between. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Oh. Come on now. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life. You know I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Hit it. I dwell in the darkness and I let in the lights. I sleep in the afternoon and become the noise in the night. I trespass in temptation, suffer and sacrifice. But I wake each day with a new sunrise. Come on. I welcome the sun, the clouds and the flame, the wind that sweeps the sky clean and lets the sun shine again. This is the most magnificent life has ever been. Here is heaven and earth and the brilliant sky in between. Oh, blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life. So I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Oh, blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life, and I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Hoo-ha. Fun stuff right there.
Yay. Austin's been training me well today. Blessing and celebration. That's an inside job, really, especially if you look at it from the spiritual perspective. And that's what we're focusing on these weeks, is having a healthy spirituality, healthy living. They call it healthy play, all kinds of things. But this week, it's on gratitude. And some of you know that I had cancer when I was a kid. I was diagnosed when I was 13, like exactly a month, actually, after my 13th birthday, and ended up going to St. Jude for about 4 years, especially, and a little bit after that. And it was really difficult. But one of the things, I've even said some recently, that it was my best learning institution. It's sort of education came through what was a difficult time, but learning about support in all kinds of ways that you don't even expect it. And then also learning about gratitude. And I forget it, but when I think back to some of the things, just being grateful for being able to drink water, stuff like that, you know. When you really find a base or a center, that inside job of celebration, that is what it is actually to live a life of grace and love, that we talk about this other power, not the worldly power with what we surround ourselves with, but seeing through the eyes of grace, hearing through the ears of the heart. That shift is what we're all about, and that's what we are to one another, is being a community where we can bring who we are fully into that mystery of new life. And so that's one of the things I wanted to emphasize as we move into this time, that we are here together as part of this community of healing and wholeness and helping one another to see. And then also the practical things. I won't say much about DeAndrea's crisis that was happening last hour with her printer and her daughter being sick and all kinds of things. But the thing about surprises, when we are in a community of trust and care, the surprises maybe get us at first, but we realize it's going to be okay. All shall be well. So with all of that is the preface. Let's join together in invocation. New every morning is your love, great God of light. And all day long you are working for good in the world. Awaken us to your way of wisdom and to trust that yes and power of your grace. Help us to see possibilities for healing and new life where we once were blind. Help us to hear your call in every situation, that we may experience wholeness and be instruments of your peace, beginning right here and right now. Amen.
Thank you, Zen Lynn. Hey, I'd like to invite everybody to stand up and sing with us, would you please? Sing our butts off on this song. It's a good one. And don't forget, if you brought an offering, anytime during this song, you can bring it up here to the table. Here we go. There are no steps to this sacred dance, just the feel of your feet on the floor. Your arms in the air, as free as your birth, and as simple as a wave on the shore. The voices you heard have no power here. Find a rhythm that fits how you live. Silence the critical voices inside us that stray our lives through a suit. Hit it! God of pleasure and wilderness, grant us the wisdom to dance with creation. God of wonder and bliss, give us love for the beauty of all our relations. As we stretch out our hands to the heavens so fair, let this dance be our prayer. Verse 2, here we go. Move in a mystery of all that we see. We dance for the wonder of being. We dance through the struggles to remind us how the truth is finally free. God of pleasure and wilderness, grant us the wisdom to dance with creation. God of wonder and bliss, give us love for the beauty of all our relations. As we stretch out our hands to the heavens so fair, let this dance be our prayer. Some sweet music now. Let's sing verse 3 together. Dance with your brothers and leave all your cares. Come, sisters and mothers, and let down your hair. Stars of the morning and darkest of night, for the joy of creation's God's greatest delight. God of pleasure and wilderness, grant us the wisdom to dance with creation. God of wonder and bliss, give us love for the beauty of all our relations. As we stretch out our hands to the heavens so fair, God of pleasure and wilderness, grant us the wisdom to dance with creation. God of wonder and bliss, give us love for the beauty of all our relations. As we stretch out our hands to the heavens so fair, let this dance be our prayer. All right. Go team. Take a moment and offer one another a sign of peace, would you please? You're up.
This whole thing about gratitude, as I said, is an inside job in a way, or as I know that Tom was talking about prayer and attention. Another word that's often used these days is mindful. Not so much thinking a lot rationally, but fully, not just the brain, but the mind, which is a whole lot more, really. And so being present to what awakens us to that different way of seeing. As I said, I had cancer. One of the things that really woke me up was not in the church at the time. Wasn't really bad, but I was part of a church, but it was actually out in nature. And suddenly awakening to this, instead of being isolated, I was in solitude, but with something much bigger than me. And it sort of helped to hold the difficulties in a whole different perspective. And that was almost like a conversion experience for me. And so when I remember that also, and some people know when I hear birds singing, that sort of thing, it kind of connects me. It takes me to the power of that awareness. And I want to share, first of all, with y'all a poem by Mary Oliver, who writes really well about that sort of thing. This one's called Mindful. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It was what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. Oh, good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help me but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. And now a reading from 2 Corinthians 9, verses 6 through 8. What I mean is this: the one who sows a small number of seeds will always reap a small crop, and the one who sows a generous amount of seeds will also reap a generous crop. Everyone should give whatever they have decided in their heart. They shouldn't give with hesitation or because of pressure. God loves a cheerful giver. God has the power to provide you with more than enough of every kind of grace. That way, you will have everything you need, always and in everything, to provide more than enough for every kind of good work. Reading of the Lord.
We're about to slip into our groovy Kairos time. I'm going to invite you to, as you're seated, just sing the song with us. The melody you'll probably be familiar with. The lyrics you probably won't be, but we want you to give it a go. The melody's an old thing called a...
Hyphadrawl.
Hyphadrawl. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, good. Here we go. Here we go. God of movement, work inside us. Send your rain and nurture us all. Tend our roots and hearts excite us. Help us hear your ancient call. In our pain and in our laughter, present ever throughout all our days. Here before and now and after, may our living things give praise. Here's another one. As a tiny seed is planted, roots emerge and growth begins. So we ask, our hearts enchant and bring your kingdom from within. Love unquenchable, hope unstoppable, reign of justice with no end. Use our lives and make it possible that your garden we maintain. Verse 3. Send us forth to sow and scatter seeds that grow your kingdom on earth. Make it clear the ways that matter, those which bring new life and new birth. Through your people bring your healing in our lives and the fruits that we grow. Evermore your kingdom revealing. Now's the time to plant and sow. Evermore your kingdom revealing. time to plant and sow.
I can't resist this. I used to live in Chicago, and I know there's some other people here that have Chicago roots. There was a miracle last night. The Cubs actually got into the World Series. 1945 was the last time. Last time they actually won was 1908. So miracles happen. Actually, my view on miracles is more like Albert Einstein, really, that either nothing's a miracle or everything's a miracle. And in some ways, the Cubs have been looking for it for a long time. It's sort of for all of us. Are we open and looking for how God is moving in our lives? That's really the key, the inside job I was talking about. There's so many things that we miss if we're rushing and busy. And as the Mary Oliver poem said, we see so much when we're taking time to really be present to it. And this Kairos time is about that. It's not that God's only here during this time of prayer or something else, but always. But this is kind of like going to the gym in a way, exercising and also just being more intentionally present to the miracle that is here right now. So one of the things that helps is if you pay attention to what your body's telling you. Get comfortable. If you're comfortable with closing your eyes, it may help to kind of be more aware of your breath, that gift of breath that is often called spirit or pneuma or rauch. All kinds of languages refer to spirit, something that's not just oxygen. But it helps us to let go of our distractions and our fears and helps us open to a different place inside of us. So we're no longer analyzing, but paying attention. Pay attention to your breath and hear this part of this poem by John O'Donohue, For a New Beginning. Awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement when new frontiers beckon. Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow its path. Holy One, you who move in and through each of our lives and connects us one to another in a sacred trust of wholeness and encouragement. Help us to hear that bell that calls us to awaken and to settle deeply within our souls. As we gently think about this day, this time here and now, and imagine through that presence our week coming up and all of the important things coming up in this next month. Help us to hear your call, to be present to your way of healing and perfect love that we know in and through Jesus the Christ. And it is through him we pray. Amen.
good to be with all of you today. I'm DeAndrea Dare, and I'm thrilled to be here. I want to say thanks, though, to several people who have helped me get here today. I have great amounts of gratitude for three individuals, especially. Tom asked me to do this quite a while ago when he knew he was going to be going to Germany, and he had said that there would be one service. And so I thought, okay, my baby will be 5 weeks old. I think I can manage one service. And then this past week, he wrote me and he said, it's 2 services. And I'm not to that point yet. I don't think I can do this. There's no way. I'm a mess. I cannot do this. And so thankfully, Todd Kirk stepped up and was so kind to do the 9:39 service and allow me a few more moments of sleep. And so thank you very, very much. And then Brad and Lynn are incredible gifts to this church and to me. And so thank you, both of you. And I actually also should say thank you to Austin, my 4th person, yes, because without him, I would not have my sermon this morning, because it is true that my printer would not work and my child was sick. And so yeah, it's been a great morning. So, but hey, we're all here together, and that's what matters. And I have a great amount of gratitude on this morning. So, life is full of moments, and some of the moments are funny, and some of them are heartbreaking, and other times they're full of absolute love and joy. And moments somehow fill the time and the space in this thing that we call life, and suddenly they become our memories, and then suddenly also we begin to dream about what moments can come to us. But we have to be careful in the midst to not miss out on the present moment of which we have. And in the midst of the calm, but in the midst of the chaos of life, sometimes we aren't necessarily present to what is happening in the now, because we're either thinking back or we're looking ahead. And so there's a great amount of gratitude to be found in every moment, whether it's sadness or joy. And so I think that sometimes, we have to truly cultivate how we do that and how we express the gratitude that we have, because gratitude is something that we share and we feel, but it's something that we then give to someone else. And so on this time and in these moments here, we come together this week to talk about gratitude and to think about the ways in which we can live a balanced life that is faith-filled, and the way in which we share in community together. So the scripture text that Lynn read, makes me laugh that you called him Zen Lynn, a few minutes ago, points us in a way to how we can live with gratitude in our daily life. And science, as well as the scriptures, have come into line with one another for so long, and consistently in this instance point to the same thing, that gratitude changes the way that our lives are lived, that it affects our health, it affects the relationships that we have with others, and it affects our general outlook and well-being as we live together in community. And Paul, who wrote the scripture that Lynn read, seems to be emphasizing how it is that we live and where it is that we put our priorities not only affect us, but they affect all those who are around us. Maybe not just those whom we live with, but those whom we come into community with here in the church, those that we work with, those that we meet out in the life that we live. We all come together, and we all find ways of life weaving our ways together into community. And so the ways in which we express this gratitude and we feel gratitude within us matters deeply. There is some part of all of us, it's just plain human nature, that seems to be innate deep down within us, that if we feel as though we've somehow worked so hard to arrive at where we're at, or we've done so well for ourselves, we become a little bit proud. We become a little bit stingy sometimes, thinking that we have done all of these things in life on our own. And we can begin to think that how great we are. Or if we look around and we feel as though we have been somehow slighted along life's path, or we've been shortchanged because we do not have enough. It's a matter of perspective. And then there's another perspective that invites us to think about how many doors have been opened for us that have allowed us to get to where we are today. I had several opened for me that allowed me to get here to this moment with you this morning. And so when you think about this day in your life, and you think back to who has helped you in your life along the way, whether that was in the realm of a teacher in school, whether that was a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent, whether it was friends along the way or colleagues, when we begin to look around and see that we have not arrived at where we are by ourselves, we begin to see a perspective that offers much more light and much more grace. And we see that we have experienced this in ways that we do not even deserve. It's not something that we work for. It's something that is freely given to us. And when it is given to us, then we are led to respond. And how we respond says a great deal about who we are and who we are becoming. And so when we respond, we hope that when we focus on this gratitude thing, that we are responding with grace and with love to others. Because when we have received that grace, we are then to give that grace away. And gratitude is a recognition of the grace that we receive. And when it affects us, it then responds to someone else. And when we give that gift of grace and gratitude away, then someone else picks it up and gives it away as well. It seems that in this life, when we feel as though we have little and nothing to give, whether that's materially or with our presence, we are still able to sow what God is doing and God scattering the seeds around us. So I do believe that no matter where we are in life, whether it's in a very painful time or whether it's on the top of a mountain experience, that God is present with us. And from those moments, there are great seeds of gratitude that are being sown deep within us. And sometimes it takes us a while to be able to see those. Sometimes it takes us a while to be able to find ways to share them. But little by little, when we focus on that which we have been given and that which we have, instead of that which we wish we had, we will then find ourselves living very differently. The more you guys get to know me, the more you will find that I love my nephews. I have 6 of them, and they're not little anymore. They range from 18 to 30, which makes me feel really old. But I love them dearly, and 4 of them live here in the area, and so I've gotten to be incredibly close to them. And last year, 2 of their twins, they were seniors, and David, who is now a student at TCU, he took this 100 Happy Day challenge on Facebook. And I don't know if you've seen this or not. It's a little challenge that you post a picture daily, and you write a post daily, and you use certain hashtags to tell your story about one thing during each and every day that made you happy. And David's a sweet, sweet kid, and I thought I knew David well. But when he started posting these things and writing about what it was in life that made him happy, there was a great amount of depth to him that I had never seen. And he says that he found this challenge on Facebook to be a life-changing event. He says he thought he was happy before, but what he found was that he could be even happier. He could laugh louder. He could focus on what was positive instead of dwelling on all that is negative. He could begin to see what was really important in life instead of focusing on the things that take so much time and energy and in the end do not really matter. David enjoyed the 100 Happy Day challenge so much that he expanded it to 365 days and did a whole year. And I was very happy about that because I still miss those posts. But at the end of the challenge, he actually wrote this. And he said, 1 year ago today, I started a silly social media challenge that would somehow change my life. And one year I learned that happiness can be found in the smallest of things, on the worst of days, and in the unhappiest of people. Finding the one thing that made me happy every day for 1 year created a happiness that I would not have been able to fathom 1 year ago. We all only have one life to live, so why should we waste it focusing on what matters? Okay, let's try again. Why should we waste it not focusing on what it is that makes us happy? This is my challenge to everyone who reads this post, to find one thing every day that makes you happy, because it's all around us in the most unexpected of things. You just have to stop and take notice. Now, I will tell you that gratitude and happiness are not the same thing, but they do go together and are working hand in hand. There are days in this life, and you may be experiencing one of them today, that is just not happy. We're all at different places on our journey, and we all have life happening around us. And some moments are just not good. There is pain in this world, there is injustice, there is cruelty and war and disease, and there is broken relationships. And yet, there are still, in the midst of those things, even though it's hard to see sometimes in the midst of those things, moments of grace and gratitude that spring forth, that offer to us bright spots, moments of light, kind of where that thin veil between heaven and earth come together, and we are able to see that there is still goodness in the midst of that. There are small mercies to be found even in the most difficult of times. I was impressed that David, a high school senior, could figure this out from a silly Facebook challenge, but it did change the way and his outlook on life. And I believe it could change ours as well. There's a writer in New Zealand that writes a blog, and she reflected one day on how her grandmother had always said to her, "Be grateful for small mercies." And when she was little, she didn't really quite understand exactly what that meant. But then she began to see that it was being grateful for the small things in life, for the things that we often overlook. And she talks about how once she became an adult and she got caught up in life and times were not so good, she forgot this little piece of wisdom that was given to her. She was living in New Zealand at the time, and she was separated from her partner for a whole year. They did not get to see each other because her partner lived here in the United States. They were both in difficult financial positions. Their home in the U.S. was about to be foreclosed, and that was weighing heavily on her. They were having to decide between mortgage payments and health insurance. And then suddenly her father died. She says that she felt as though life was way too big for her and that she was being swallowed by it. So she hurriedly one day got this idea and sent an email to her partner here in the States stating that she was going to begin a gratitude list, and that she hoped that they could do this together by emailing it back and forth. And so they did. And this is what she says. "We began to shift our focus away from the pain that we felt at not being able to be together, from the heartbreaking loss of people that we loved, and from the impending loss of the home where we had known such happiness. Now I give thanks for the silence that enabled me to hear the bird song in my New Zealand garden, and for my tea and toast, and for my cozy bed, and for the clear blue sky. We gave thanks for good deeds that we were able to do that day, and for ways in which we were able to help others. We gave thanks for a beautiful day, for pizza, for water that we were able to drink from an underground spring in upstate New York when we were together. And then, as the months went on, a very curious thing happened. We stopped feeling alone. And together we summoned a power that neither of us could have summoned alone. We began to see that in reality we actually lacked nothing at all, despite the fact that I was lucky if I had $1.54 in my bank account at the end of most weeks and had not been able to fly to my father's funeral without borrowing money. Slowly over time, we awoke to the true value of our help, our deeply comforting long-distance love, the air we breathed, the hot water that flowed into our homes. And slowly over time, we came to see that even amidst the loss and seeming deprivation, we were actually both rich beyond words. And this is what gratitude truly is. Many of you know part of my journey and part of my story, that my first child, Max, was unexpectedly stillborn 3.5 years ago. It happened in the middle of the night. I was rushed into the OR. Things were chaotic. People were yelling things I didn't understand about instruments and medical things. I was rushed into the OR with my husband being left in the room in the hospital. I was crying. I was scared. I was wondering how this could be happening. But in the midst of all that chaos, there was this one person who was very, very present in the moment. He was very calm. His voice was very, very peaceful and incredibly reassuring. I never saw his face because he was the anesthesiologist that was sitting above my head as I was laying on the table. He called my name, and I remember looking up at him. He had on the hat that you wear in the OR and all the scrubs and the mask. He called me by name, and then he said, with care and compassion, "DeAndrea, I am going to take care of you." And that was the last thing I heard in the midst of all of that fear and utter confusion. For 3.5 years, I've heard that man's voice in my head. I've heard the words that he spoke whenever I have thought of that awful night. And as I began to reflect on my life and on my journey to having Max, I began to see that this man that I didn't know, who was sort of a masked guy with a calm, sweet voice, was a gift of grace in the midst of the worst absolute moments of my life. And so this past September, while I was in the hospital waiting to have Mara, I asked one of the nurses to look back in my chart, and since it's all electronic, they can do it right there at the bedside. And they looked back in my chart and they found out who this man was, because I wanted to know his name. I wanted to know more about him. I wanted to say thank you to him if I possibly could. And she found out who he was. She told me that he was one of the kindest individuals that she had ever met. But she also told me that he no longer worked in L&D. He was no longer the anesthesiologist for many of them. That he'd taken a different position in the hospital, more of an administrative role. And I told her, I'd like to say thank you if I can, but I understand that he's probably too busy and that things are chaotic here at the hospital, but I'm going to be here a while. So if by chance, he could swing by sometime, I would love that. And so she said she would see. And so she went and she found one of the unit anesthesiologists, and she told her my story. And then that anesthesiologist came and talked to me and said, "I'm going to go try to find him." And I thought, there's going to be an emergency. This is not going to get passed on, the game of telephone, or it's going to get passed on. It's going to be some weird story somehow along the way. But about 2.5 weeks later, there was this loud bang on my door. And I'm laying there hooked up to stuff. And I said, "Come in." And I heard DeAndrea. And he walked from behind the curtain in my room, and I would not have known him if I would have passed him on the street or if he would be sitting right here beside me. But when he said my name, I knew who he was. And he said, "I was told that you wanted to see me," and he told me his name. And I just started to cry. And I told him that he was the calm in the midst of those moments, that he was the peace that made all the difference, and that I wanted to thank him for being that, because I needed something like that in that moment. And how, we don't always know the way our words or our actions affect other people. And as I was talking, he began to tear up. And he said, nobody ever thanks an anesthesiologist. He said, "We put people to sleep and we never talk to them again." And he said, "I've moved to a different stage in my career. I left a job that I loved, but I went to a job that I felt called to." And so he said, "This is a sort of closure for me, that you're saying thank you and taking the time to remember and show me that what I do actually does matter to someone else." And so it was a moment of gratitude shared between both of us, where we never even know how we're going to affect another person. I didn't want to tell him thank you in a way to close out a journey of his life. I didn't even think about how it would affect him. I just needed to say thank you for myself, to let him know what he meant to me. But it became a sort of life-changing moment for both of us, and we are both so thankful that our paths have crossed. Finally, I will leave you with a story about a writer named Peter DeMarco. He lives in Boston, and you may have heard of him and heard this story because it's gone viral and been focused on the Today Show recently. His wife died suddenly of an asthma attack when they were out hiking. And he recently wrote a letter to the doctors and nurses who cared for her after she suffered such a horrible attack. In the letter, he says that people often comment about how could that he remember all of the people's names who cared for her, and his response simply is, how could I not? And in the letter, he goes on to describe the care and the tenderness that was given to him and to his wife while she was in the hospital. He explains that how they went above and beyond, allowing his friends and family to come and be by her bedside and say goodbye. They allowed him to sneak in their cat named Cola so that the cat could lick her face one more time. They gave him a final hour to spend with her before she donated her organs and gave life to someone else. And at the end of the letter, he says, I will remember that last hour together for the rest of my life. It was a gift beyond gifts. I have Donna and Jen, our nurses, to thank for it, but I actually have all of you who cared for her to thank for it. With my eternal love and gratitude, Peter DeMarco. The fact that this letter has gotten so much attention, I believe, shows that we as humans desire to see goodness and grace in the midst of the everyday life. He was able to recognize at the most painful of times that there was still beauty happening around them, that there was the sacred, that it was yet to be found in the midst of the moments. And so I think and believe deeply that when we express thanks, we are focusing on the good things in this life. We look at what is working instead of focusing on what is not working. What we have instead of what we don't have or what we think we need. We focus on who we love instead of who we don't love. And we are reminded of what is really important in our lives, our family, our values, our friends. The entire history of the universe, Frederick Buechner says, let alone in your own history, there has never ever been another day like today. And there will never be another day to come like this moment that we are having. Today is the point to which all of your yesterdays have been leading since the hour of your birth. It is the point from which all of your tomorrows will proceed until the hour of your death. If you were aware of how precious today is, you could hardly live through it. Unless you are aware of how precious it is, you can hardly be said to live at all. On this day, as we focus on gratitude, as we move through this sermon series, may we begin to open ourselves to all that is sacred, to all that is surrounding us in this moment and in the moments to come. May we seek and search intentionally to find the grace that has been given to us even when we do not deserve it, and recognize it and thank those who have given it to us. And then may we take that grace and with gratitude share it with others so that little by little the gratitude that comes from that grace might flow into the community, and before we know it, it may possibly even transform not just us, but our world. And in the words of Bob Dylan, we close as we say, may God bless you and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. And may you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and strong, and may you stay forever young on this day and in the days to come.
May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others. Let others do for you. And may you build a ladder to the stars. Climb on every rung. And may you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. And may you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong, and may you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. And may your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of change shift. May your heart always be joyful. May your song always be sung. And may you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young.
If you will stand up and grab the hand of someone near to you, let's have our blessing. Thank you. It was so good to be with you here this morning, and know that the one who plants the seeds will wait for us to take and grow. And may, as we grow, we share the growth and the gratitude and the grace that we are given with others along our path. May you go on this day looking with open eyes, with an open heart to the grace that you have already received and that is coming to you, and the ways in which you may share that grace with others. Go in peace. Amen.
All be well. All manner of things shall be well. All shall be well now. All shall be well. All shall be well. All manner of things shall be well. All shall be well. All shall be well. All shall be well. All manner of things shall be well. All shall be well.